all the rules.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
Smooth T20 is back for its 10th anniversary, and as usual, the best cricketers in the Caribbean will be in Antigua to take part in the region's premier local white ball competition. The action will take place from April 13th to 29th at the Sir Vivian Richards Cricket Stadium. The Jennings Tigers, Bethesda Golden Eagles, Boland's Blasters, Empire Nation, New Winthrop's Lions, All Saints Pythons, and Pigot's Crushers will try their best to dethrone the Liberta Blackhawks. The cool and smooth T20 is back, and it's bigger and better than ever. You can't afford to miss a single ball.
Yes, people. Look at this. The music's in the background as I came on live. That's how you know that I'm not a technical guy. I still had it on repeat. Big up this cool and smooth T20 explosion. Starts on April the 13th. We're going to be working with the cool and smooth T20 team this year. You're going to see lots and lots of content on our channel covering the cool and smooth T20. You've got the Scottish team out there. Obviously, it's hosted in Antigua. You've got players from all around the Caribbean traveling over to Antigua for what probably I would argue is the premier Caribbean T20 competition. Obviously, CPL is effectively an international competition that takes place in the Caribbean. But Cool and Smooth is effectively more or less exclusively Caribbean players. And if we're going to talk about the need for a Caribbean T20 tournament to exist, Cool and Smooth are leading the way. If there's a tournament already there that if we can get behind and if we can get to expand, that's where you'll find your burgeoning young talent to make its way through into CPL and then obviously into the West Indies team and so on and so forth. So look out on our handles, people, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, our website. You know the drill. You'll find all of the information there. Head over to Nikhil's channels as well. Cool and Smooth you can find on Insta on CS20. You can find them there as well, but keep your eyes locked in. Welcome to another live edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. What a game it was today. We're recording this about, how long ago did that game end? About, what was it, like 6 hours ago? West Indies versus South Africa, versus the West Indies, the second T20 of 3. West Indies had an opportunity to win a rare T20 series, just win anything in South Africa, to be honest, but a rare opportunity to win something in South Africa. And it looked like at the halfway stage that we were going to do it. We posted 258 runs. But here's the thing. Are you really a West Indian fan if you didn't think at the halfway stage, yeah, we could still lose this one? Any rational West Indian fan should have been thinking at the halfway stage, well, boy, if we can do that to the South African bowling attack and their attack is better than ours, some of you will say, no, it's not, but look at it. Go man for man. All I was thinking, and if you're in our Discord chat, go in the description below, by the way, for the YouTube video, you can find the Discord group there. If you're in our Discord group, I was saying it at half time. I was saying it during our first innings. I was like, if we're doing this to South Africa, what are they going to do to us? What are they going to do when Odean comes to bowl, for example? Anybody who's in this chat, back me up and say, yeah, it's true. Mash was saying that whilst we were batting. What's gonna happen when Odean comes on to bowl, and so on and so forth. So I never thought 258 was a definite winning total. It should have been. I think a more established and competent side than ours defends that. It's interesting that Aidan Markham Markram, sorry, the South African captain, said that they thought West Indies left at least were 15 runs minimum too short at the halfway stage. And actually, you could argue that makes some kind of sense, because did we let it fall a bit in the back end? I need to go back and, in fact, let me go find it now. I want to make sure I've got my full stats. You lot know how I love my stats. In the back end, where's our innings? Oh, no, we were fine. No, we were fine in the back end. Our final 5 overs, we scored 16, 11, 18. The penultimate over was only 5, but then even the final over, 18 runs came off it. So it wasn't like we weren't going at a fair lick all the way through the game. The reality is this game was lost with South Africa's start. And not that South Africa are a one-man team, not at all, but you just kind of knew, again, if you've got any kind of knowledge of the game, you kind of knew if Quinton de Kock gets off to a good start, anything's possible. And boy, what was it again? What was it again? Let me find it, people. Where's the thing? What were they? After the power play, South Africa were 102 for none after the power play. Now, bear in mind, we at the time thought we had a wicked power play, right? And at the end of our power play, we were 62 for 1. And we're going, yeah, it's a really good power play. We've maximized the power play. South Africa made double that, 102 for none in the power play. What? Boy. Anyways, let's chop it up, people. Let's chop it up. This isn't just about the second T20. It's supposed to actually, if you look at the title of the video, it's supposed to also cover the first T20 as well. We did win the first T20, remember, which was on Saturday. South Africa that was a shortened match, though, shortened down to 11 overs. South Africa made 131 for 8 of their 11 overs, and we chased it down with 3 balls to spare. We made it a lot closer than it needed to be, I felt. But the point, and I do think it should be noted that it's interesting that we won a shortened game. This is obviously a T20 series. We won an 11-over game in the first T20. And I would always say, given the experience that most of our players have in T10, if you look at our top 6, all of them playing those Abu Dhabi T10 tournaments or Dubai T10 or whatever it's called, all of them are usually out there playing for Northern Warriors or whatever it might be. Whereas when you look at the South African team, I just felt when it was shortened down to 11 overs in that first T20, I was always like, this suits us. Our players are used to playing the T10 format and having to go from ball 1. So I wasn't as surprised that we won the shortened T20 in game 1. But then that's not to take away from game 2. Again, we should have been able to defend 258, and we were not able to. I know lots of you are in the comments, by the way. I'll get to them in a minute. What I'm going to try and do for this particular chat, or for this live show, I should say, is I've written down a few key talking points. And what I want to do is I want to go through each key talking point, and then I'll like bring up the best of the comments with regards to the kind of key talking point. I see all your comments, people, but let me bring the first key talking point in, and then if you want to kind of riff off the back of that, then so be it. So talking point number one. Where should I start? Let's start with Gio is saying make it a call-in. 5 minutes per caller. Do you know why I don't want to make it a call-in, Gio? I'm in a naring about it. The reason why I don't want to is because I actually want to go to bed. And I know that once I start the call-in, the chances of me going to bed are slim to none. And I'm actually tired out here. But I committed to doing the live. I'll see, Gio. Let's see how quick I can get through the talking points. Then I might do 2 or 3 calls at the end. Anyways, talking point number 1 is so let's start with selection. I think we've got to start with selection. And this doesn't mean that I'm only focusing on negatives, because at the end of the day, like I say, we won the first T20. So this isn't supposed to be a kind of cuss out session where we're like, boy, West Indies are a rucks. How did we lose that second T20? We won the first one. It's 1-1. So we're covering both T20s as a whole. So don't try your hardest, people, to not just focus on what happened in that second one or today's one. Let's look at them as a whole. It's been a weekend doubleheader. But the first thing I want to talk about is selection. And a lot of these talking points I'm going to come up with have come out of the kind of discussion that goes on in our Discord group. Again, I recommend it for those who want to kind of like have a forum to chat, to do live chat whilst the match is going on. And within the Discord group, we kind of spoke a lot about the selection of the team. And I guess more specifically, and it's not about drawing out any particular players, but it will help articulate the point I'm trying to make. Look at the selection for the first T20 and then look at the selection for the second T20. How many frontline bowlers did we actually have? How many frontline bowlers? I would argue in the first T20, we had 3 frontline bowlers only playing. Akil Hussain, Sheldon Cottrell, Alzari Joseph. And then the rest, in that particular match, the rest of the overs were made up by Romario Shepherd and Odean Smith, who took 4 of the 11 overs. In the second T20, today's one, our bowling attack, our frontline bowlers were Akil Hussain, Sheldon Cottrell, Jason Holder. So you're going into a match with only 3 frontline bowlers, which guarantees you only 12 out of 18 overs, right? 12 out of 20 overs, which means you have to find 8 overs elsewhere in your team if you only go in with 3 frontline bowlers. That's not for me to say that our frontline bowlers are excellent, but I'm just saying we only picked 3. So in today's match, you had Sheldon, Akil, who bowled 2, Sheldon, who only bowled 1, and obviously got licked down for 29 runs, and Jason, who bowled all 4, right? That then meant that Romario Shepherd had to bowl 4, Odean Smith bowled 2, Raymond Reefer bowled 4, Rodman Powell bowled 2. So my first talking point is this. Can West Indies get away with selecting a T20 side where you only have 3 frontline bowlers and you're looking at the likes of Shepherd and Smith to make up a large majority of the remaining 8 overs? To me, that is a selection error. We should never put ourselves in any position where we're relying on Shepherd and Smith to have to bowl at least a third of the allotted overs that West Indies have to bowl. Get at me in the comments, people. Let me know what you feel about that, because I think we're setting ourselves up to fail. I'm not trying to drag Shepherd. I'm not trying to drag Smith. I mean, maybe I am, because effectively what I'm saying is they're not good enough to have to definitely bowl a minimum of 6 overs out of 8. They're just not, right? Get at me in the comments below, people. What do you think about that first talking point? Are we 1 bowler too light? Can we afford to only go into a match with only 3 frontline bowlers and then the rest are the bits and pieces players, with respect, making up the rest of our attack? Errol says Shepherd and Odean shouldn't even be in the same team. I tend to agree, to be honest. I've always said that I think only one of the 2 of them should be playing. I don't think we can afford to play both. And if you do think we can afford to play both, this is a question mark. This is a question I put to everyone. If we're playing both Shepherd and Odean, what's their role? Are they batting all-rounders? Are they bowling all-rounders? Are they, let's just hope for the best? What's their actual role in the side? And if they're batting all-rounders, why then are we allowing them to bowl probably 6 out of the 20 overs? If anybody in the chat is like, oh, Mash, they're batting all-rounders, that's why they come at 7 and 8 to boost our batting and be finishers. But why are they bowling 6 overs between them, usually, if not more? What's their actual role? I'm not trying to drag them. I'm not trying to blame them for the defeat. That's not my point. These are just talking points having come out of the weekend doubleheader. What's their actual role in the side? It's both Romario and Odean have been in the side now for probably, coming up to 3 years? And I still don't know what their role is. I couldn't tell you what their role is in the side. Do they know what their role is? People tell me. Someone help me. I actually don't know what their role is. Because whatever happens, West Indies can't be a successful T20 side if you're asking them to bowl between them 6 out of their allotted 8 overs. And that's with respect. I'm not saying you can't get okay, let me be optimistic. If Shepherd and Romario and Oldine, sorry, both 6 overs between them, I reckon you can get 4 passable overs at the international level. I'm not talking about CPL level. I'm talking about at the international level. I reckon you might get 4 passable overs out of 6 if they bowled that. And I just think you can drop one of them or sit one of them for an actual frontline batter or frontline, but it's happy a frontline bowler, to be fair, for a frontline batter or frontline bowler. I just don't understand how you can have both in the same team when you're not certain that either can do whatever their role is, which none of us know, in the side. Tom says, so let's go through some comments. Joe Bob says Oldine is a domestic class bowler at best and a pinch hitter at best. I kind of agree with that, which makes me wonder why we even put in Oldine at number 7 and number 8. Part of me feels if we're going to use Oldine, why not just tell him to come number 3 then and just say your role in the side is to just hit 6 or out? Because if you're putting him at number 8, you're surely suggesting, or number 7, you're surely suggesting you expect him to bowl a bit. But do you trust his bowling? I don't, with respect. I don't. Not at the international stage. Like, I just don't understand, to be fair. 007 says drop Oldine for Akeem Jordan. Tom says I'll make it easy when choosing between Oldine and Shepherd. Neither is anywhere near good enough. I think one of them has to play, to be fair. I'm not saying both should be dropped. I think one of the two play. Crick Lover says you can't play both of them plus Holder. Joe McCoy is not in the squad. He's injured. McCoy was replaced by Roston Chase. So Obed would you would hope would be in the squad for one of them, and then you have Alzari Joseph as well. Okay, so part of this you could say, well, boy, Obed's missing, so it kind of is what it is. We have to kind of do what we're doing right now. I hear that, but it's still a wider issue because I feel like with Romario and Oldine, I feel like we've been saying this for the longest while. This isn't anything new. I feel like fans were saying this last year. I feel like we were saying this in 2021. Like, is anyone seeing any tangible improvement when you see them play? Are you with the bat? Maybe with the bat. If you had to force me to pick one, I'd probably pick Romario, right? And I said this earlier on to people in the group chat that I would pick Romario because I think Romario is the better batter. And actually, although Romario can go for serious licks when he's got the ball, what I've noticed between Romario and Oldine, I think Oldine doesn't deal with the pressure as well as Romario. So I think the way I would describe it is, I think it's easier for Oldine to get a head loss when a batter goes after him than it is for Romario. I think Oldine loses his shape completely and doesn't necessarily know what to bowl next. Romario, on the other hand, does know what to bowl, but I don't know if he's able to execute it. I mean, what are we doing? We're arguing between half a dozen of one and half a dozen of the other. Do you know what I mean? But if it's me, I think Romario's probably the better option out of the two. Again, get me in the comments below if you agree, disagree. Brian says, no tangible improvement. No, that's a sad thing. And when we bat well, we bowl like trash. And the, and the inverse is true. We just don't do well with pressure. Tom says, I definitely think Romario, Oldine, even Jason need more role clarity. I agree with you. Having 5 medium pacers in Jace, Romario, Oldine, Rodman, Reefer, all bowling is just not the right team balance. And actually, let's take Tom's point there, because funnily enough, on my piece of paper here, I've actually written down role definition and role clarity next to this opening point. So my second talking point is, yes, we could talk about Oldine and we could talk about Romario all day long, but there's a second point we need to make here, which is role definition in general for the team. Now, in fairness, across these 2 games, I feel like it's got slightly better. So already across these 2 games, we know that King and Mayers are the openers. Cool. Got no issue with that. We know that their role, particularly Mayers, is just lick from ball one and see if you can get us off to a good start in the power play. Cool. Johnson Charles comes through. I mean, he's just broken the West Indian T20 international record, 100 runs off, 39 balls. So I feel like the top three, we know their role. Again, get at me in the comments below if you disagree. I feel like we know what their role is supposed to be. Pooran comes number 4. We don't need to talk about Pooran. We know what Pooran can do. I think Pooran can adapt, whether it means that he has to rotate or whether it means he has to go quickly. We know what Pooran's supposed to do. Rovman at 5. Again, we kind of know. So the top 5, I think we know what we know. I think their positions, as things stand right now, those top 5 are set. So even if a Shimron Hetmeyer finally got his act together and came back to West Indies, I don't think Hetmeyer necessarily walks into the team. Even if Evan Lewis got his act together and decided he really wants to play for West Indies, I don't think he necessarily walks into the team either. I think the top 5 is set, right? Mayers, King, Charles, Pooran, Powell. I think that's set. Here's where I now have an issue with role definition. When they picked Roston Chase in the first T20, Roston didn't bowl. And then when he finally came to bat, he came in at like number 9. They picked Raymond Reefer today. Now, Raymond Reefer did bowl. He bowled 4 overs for, I think, 40 and took a wicket. But Reefer wasn't in the team to bowl today. He was in the team to bat, and he didn't bat. I don't know where he was scheduled to bat in today's order, but bear in mind that when we batted, we lost 5 wickets, right? All of these players came before Raymond Reefer. King, Mayers, Charles, Pooran, Powell, Shepherd, Smith. Reefer did not bat. So already I'm looking at Chase and I'm looking at Reefer and I'm looking at role definition and I'm saying, so what are they in the team to do then? And again, don't take my words to be criticism. I'm more making the wider point about what is the role. Every player who comes into the side should have a clear role definition. If Chase was picked in the first ODI and he didn't bowl at all, what was he in the team to do that day? If he's coming in at number 9, and if he's coming in at number 9 and he's not bowling, why did you pick him? Come on, people, there's got to be a reason. And I know some of you will say, but Mash, it's about match situation because it was a shortened game. Maybe Chase didn't need to bowl, and because they wanted quick runs, Chase didn't need to bat. But for me, it speaks to a wider issue about role definition and role clarity. Everybody's got to have a certain particular role in the side. Is Chase in the team to bowl or bat? Get at me in the comments below. Is Raymond Reefer in the team to bowl or bat? Get at me in the comments below. Does this West Indies team have similar to what people said about the ODIs? Do we have, or test team, do we have one too many all-rounders? And that's why we don't have clear role definition, because we actually have too many players who can do a bit of this and a bit of that. So when we're looking at what their actual main specific suit is in the side, we don't actually know, because they can all do a bit of this and that. So we can't actually clarify what someone's in the team to do. Get at me in the comments below. Let me know. I say get at me in the comments below. Get at me in the chat. Let me know what you think about that talking point, people. Some people getting a pick, and I can't even tell you what they're supposed to be doing in the side. Like, that don't make any sense. Look at the South African team, right? Let me go back to game 1, right? So the South Africans lost game 1, but all of the batters batted, and all of the people who were picked to bowl in the South African team bowled. Game 2, South Africa, all of their main batters batted, and all of the people who were picked to bowl, so I'll just read you the bowlers, Jansen, Parnell, Magala, Rabada, Shamsi, they all bowled. So when you look at the South African team, you know who's supposed to do what in the team. The top 5 and 6 are there to bat. They've got the one all-rounder, which is probably Jansen. And yeah, okay, they've got Markram who can do bits and pieces, but there's a clear all-rounder, which is Jansen, and then the bowlers bowl. When you look at the West Indies team, you're kind of going, so what's he there to do? I don't understand. Is he doing this, or is he there to do that? Where's our... Anthony Evans just said it. I was just about to say it. Anthony Evans says we need a set template. That's what I'm saying. Where's our template? Sometimes I just look at the team and go, everyone's just doing a bit of this and that. Even today, right? Some people, probably rightly, were saying, how comes they haven't called Mayers to have a bowl? And I think Mayers should have had a bowl. But the mere fact we're calling for Mayers to bowl even tells you that in some senses, we don't even know what Mayers is there to do. Is he there to bowl? Or is Mayers supposed to be there to concentrate on being our opening batter? Like, we have to get this clear. If we're trying to be a serious T20 side, we've got to probably stop this kind of bits and pieces approach to how we pick teams and stop looking at someone and go, well, they do a bit of this and maybe it'll come off, and actually say to players, this is what you are in the team specifically to do. Sorry, people. Got to drink my water, you know. So yeah, get at me in the chat comments. What do we? Let me pick some comments from there. Vivek says, yes, Reefer's aspect did seem suspect to me when I noticed today. Ian says the strategy seems to be to just pack the side with all-rounders and hope that not all of them have a bad day. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that is the strategy, but that's how it comes across. When you look at it, whether you're a neutral or whether you're a West Indian fan, you can't help but just think, wow, why have we got so many players who can do a bit of this and a bit of that? And you just look at the team and go, so who's our established players who are there to do that specific job? Like, take this, for example. Sheldon Cottrell is a frontline bowler. And don't get me wrong, people. Obviously, he got licked down in his first over today. He went for 29 runs. And obviously, Sheldon is usually bowling the power play, early swing, get some wickets. If Sheldon is in the team to be a frontline bowler, you can't bowl him for 1 over only. And I know some of you are going to say in the chat, but Machel got licked down for 29 runs. He couldn't come back after that. But he's a frontline bowler. He's a frontline bowler. Surely he's got to come back for at least one spell, for a second spell. He can't just be 1 over, man got licked down, off you go. He was treated like he was a bits and pieces player and not a frontline bowler who's supposed to be given the ball again and you say to him, go and redeem yourself, because aren't you in the team for that? If you look at the South Africans, in fact, Joe Bob's just made the point. Jansen got licked down in his first over. Didn't the man come back and end with figures of, what did Jansen end with? Let me go find Jansen's figures. Jansen ended with figures of 4 overs, 3 for 52. But his first over went for 20-something. So, wait, hold on. T. Brown says Sheldon got subbed off. Did he? Oh, I missed that. Is that true, people? Did I miss that? Is that why? I have to take my point back. Did Sheldon get subbed off? I didn't see that. Someone confirmed. Did Sheldon go off the pitch injured? I didn't see. Someone confirmed that. I didn't see that happen, you know. Maybe they said it on comms and I just missed it physically happening. Someone else has to, T. Brown, someone else has to confirm that before I. Oh, he was. No, I'll say he wasn't. Sorry, T. Brown says confirms he wasn't subbed off. But so T. Brown's making the point that metaphorically or speaking, Sheldon got subbed off, but Sheldon's your frontline bowler. So I just think there's some talking points about how we utilize our resources. And this isn't a slight on Rovman. I think Rovman's a good captain. We saw, obviously, Rovman won Super 50 with the Talawars, with the Scorpions, and won CPL with the Talawars, right? So we know Rovman is a good captain. We know that Rovman knows how to utilize resources. After game 1 at the press conference, Rovman said that, I think it was Firdaus asked Rovman, how comes Alzari Joseph didn't bowl his full allocation? And Rovman said, I gave the penultimate over to Sheldon Cottrell because it seemed like it was Sheldon Cottrell's day. Sheldon in his first spell had bowled 2 overs, 2 for 7. And Rovman said, yes, you've got Alzari as your strike bowler, but when somebody bowls 2 overs, 2 for 7, you go back to that bowler because it's their day. And he said, yes, Sheldon then got licked down for 20-something runs. But he said, if you had offered me at the start of the match that Sheldon Cottrell would bowl in an 11-over-a-side game, that Sheldon would bowl 3 overs, 2 for 31, you'd take that. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Rovman's argument makes sense. And I think you saw pieces of that again today in the second T20. Raymond Reefer wasn't in the side to bowl a full allocation today. Don't get twisted. That wasn't supposed to happen. But Rovman was thinking on his feet. Up until the last over where Raymond took actually a bit of tap. Raymond's figures today, 4 overs, no maidens, 1 for 42, economy 10.5. He bowled at a better economy than anybody else in the side. So to me, that's good captaincy. Rodman saw how it was going, realized that how Raymond was bowling was far more effective than any of his frontline bowlers were bowling, or anybody else for that matter, and allowed Raymond Reefer to bowl his full allocation. To me, I can get down with that captaincy. I can get down with the thinking on your feet and going, actually, today is Raymond Reefer's day. Cool. But I just think on one side where I can praise Rodman for that, on the other side, I can be critical and say you have a frontline bowler in Sheldon Cottrell. You bowled him for an over and never went back to him in the remaining 19 or 18 overs or whatever was remaining. And I can criticize and say I don't think that's the right thing to do. Similarly, in the first game, Rodman turned to Romario Shepherd to bowl the 9th over and Aldine Smith to bowl the last over. We need to be done with this idea of Romario Shepherd and Aldine Smith bowling at the death. It don't work, right? Allow it. It don't work. And I know there'll be an argument to say they can't get better if you don't trust them to do it. Allow it. It don't work. It just don't work. I'd rather you just give it to Jason Holder and say, Jason, use your experience, rather than not ever see Romario Shepherd and Aldine Smith bowl at the death. Allow it, please allow it. So yes, that's a talking point. Dex says, what is Holder's primary role in the West Indies white ball setup? Well, he's another all-rounder, isn't he? Dex, I put that one back out to everybody in the chat. In T20s, I think he's a frontline bowler. I think Holder has worked over the last 2 years. Holder has worked on his white ball bowling skills in T20 cricket significantly. So I think, in fairness to Holder, in the T20 format, he is a frontline bowler. ODI cricket, boy, I can't help you with that one. I don't know. Right, let's move to the next talking point and what possibly might be the final talking point. And this one, again, came out of the group chat, the Discord group chat during the game. This issue, for me, is I call this one, what's the future? What's the future, people? Everyone listen to this question that I'm about to pose and then get in the comment section or in the chat section and reply to this. Tell me the next best up-and-coming young batter and young bowler. I bet you can't even give me two. Give me two up-and-coming young batters and two up-and-coming young bowlers who we could maybe develop to be strike bowlers one day for our T20 side. Give me some people. Get at me. Get in the comments below. Tell me who's the future, people. Who's the future? Who in the Caribbean do you think? And the reason why I ask this question is, as much as we can say, boy, Dean Romario, this, that, but what's the alternatives, people? What's the actual alternatives? Tell me what the alternatives are, people, outside of this squad. Give me some alternatives. And when you start looking for your alternatives, most of you are going to scratch your head going, boy, I can't think of no one still. And when you realize that you can't think of no one, that's when you have to accept, boy, it is what it is. It just is what it is. We have to accept that what we have in front of us is what it is. Now, some of you are putting some comments in, so let me go to them and let me debunk them. Errol says, Ramon Simmons, I agree. In about a year to a year and a half's time, not in time for the 2024 World Cup, but I expect to see Ramon Simmons in our side sooner rather than later. Kelly says, Athenaeus, what, T20s? No chance. Shea Hope, T20s? No. And Shea Hope's 30, by the way, or about to be 30. I'm talking about young prospects, people. T. Brown says Akeem Jordan, 29-year-old Akeem Jordan. T20s? Did he even play in CPL Did he play in last year's CPL? What? Tell me his numbers. Did he do anything significant? Yeah, Jaden Seals, I'm willing to listen. Yeah, Jaden Seals, when he comes back from injury, I'm willing to accept Jaden Seals as an option. Niall Smith. I've heard a lot from some of my sources in Guyana that Niall Smith needs to improve his fitness if he wants to be serious to get selected for West Indies. I'll leave that for the Guyanese fans to discuss, but I've heard quite a lot about Niall Smith and his dedication or lack thereof to fitness. Fabian Allen and Kemo Paul. Listen, where's Fabian, boy? Where is Fabian? They dissed him and didn't select him for the World Cup. They said he's too similar to Akil Hussein, which is why I didn't get picked. If I'm a selector, Fabian Allen must be in the best 15 T20 players in the Caribbean. And here's actually, let me talk on Fabian Allen just quickly. Fabian Allen is what I think some people think Romario Shepherd and Odean Smith are. But Fabian Allen's actually better than them. And let me explain why. If you have Fabian Allen in your side, you back him to bowl his full allocation of overs. So Fabian Allen is actually an all-rounder, bits and pieces player in the same vein as a Romario and an Odean. But the difference is, when Fabian Allen plays, that in one of those two suits, he's doing something as good as a frontline player should be doing. And that's what I'm saying. We're not getting out of the other bits and pieces all-rounders. If you're being selected as a bits and pieces all-rounder, one of the suits that you have, you must be performing in that suit as good as if you're a frontline player in that particular suit. You see, if I have Fabian Allen in my side, I know I can tell him, go bowl me 4 overs. And he's not getting licked down like he's a waste man. Do you see what I mean? As well as being able to be a finisher. And this is before we talk about the fact that he's a triple threat and is probably the best fielder in the Caribbean. So Fabian Allen, for me, walks into any 15-man squad in T20. But I don't know what's going on for Fabian Allen right about now. Let me see some other people. Sorry, people, I'm making my way through. Let's see who people are saying. McSween, you sure about that? Is that McKenny Clark? Yeah, give McKenny Clark 2 years, some first class experience, and yeah, I can. McKenny Clark is getting picked up by franchises and leagues already to be a net bowler, so clearly people like the pace that he's got. Drake's, yeah, Naeem Young. I think Naeem Young should be in this year's Cool and Smooth T20. So I'll keep an eye on Naeem Young. Boy. But I think you lot are struggling yourselves. I'm looking at them. You lot are struggling. Tyrell's made the point. CPL doesn't pick any young batters. Exactly. Which is what this goes back to that point about we need our own Caribbean T20. Cool and Smooth T20 in Antigua, April the 13th to April the 29th. Get behind it, people. That's as close as we're going to get to a Caribbean T20 at this moment in time, because you can't rely on the CPL franchises to invest in young players. Yes, they've got the what do you call it? The emerging players thing where you have to play 2 of them, but they don't really, CPL's not really looking at Caribbean young players like that in terms of certainly batters. Where are we? Still scrolling down. Oh, Shane Thomas, don't care about it. He needs to take his career seriously. Rutherford. Now that's the one I was waiting for. So Shafane Rutherford is still only 25 years old. He's had a lot of fitness concerns. He's had a lot of people say that he doesn't appear to be serious about getting selected for the West Indies. But if Shafane Rutherford ever decided that he wanted to seriously play for the West Indies and seriously took his fitness, took that seriously or seriously enough to get called up for the West Indies, then yes, I'm willing to accept Shafane Rutherford as somebody who qualifies for the young batter who could get into this side and be the part of the next generation of T20 cricketers. So yeah, Rutherford's somebody I'd definitely think about. Anyways, people, so do I have any other talking points? Oh, batting wise. So I think overall, I don't think we can have any complaints about the batting thus far. Pooran's not come to the party, but across the 2 T20s thus far. So we won the first one. Obviously, we chased down the 132 in 11 overs. And today, yes, okay, our bowlers didn't defend it, but you can't ask for much more than your batters putting up 258 for 5. Your bowlers are supposed to be, even if the track was flat like a pancake, your bowlers are still supposed to defend 258 runs, right? So in terms of within the series and with the bat, I think the batters have actually shown up. If you don't know the averages thus far, Johnson Charles is averaging 73 with a strike rate of 243. Rothman Powell is averaging 71 with a strike rate of 192. Romario's averaging 44 with a strike rate of 183. Carl Mayers is averaging 29 with a strike rate of 196. They're the four who have come to the party thus far in the first two games. Odean's had a cameo here and there. Brandon had a good start in the first one, and Nicholas hasn't really got going at all, right? It's more been with the ball where people have struggled. Alzari Joseph is obviously our go-to gun bowler, but he's only bowled 2 overs thus far, missed today's game. And to be fair to Romario Shepherd, across the 2 matches thus far, he's bowled 5.5 overs, taken 1 wicket for 64 runs at an economy of 10.97. Now, that's still not good, but relative to everybody else who's supposed to be a bowler, he's actually doing better than the rest, doing better than Holder in terms of economy, doing better than Sheldon in terms of economy, Akil, and Odean Smith. So credit where it's due relative to what everyone else is doing. You could argue that Romario's actually doing his job. But then didn't I say at the top of the show, if you held me up against a wall and said pick one, I would always go for Romario before I go for Odean Smith. I think Romario is more likely to do whatever the job is supposed to be than Odean Smith is likely to do. Right, listen, people, 41 minutes of the show have gone. There's about 100 plus of you in the chat. I'm mindful of time. I'm very mindful of time. Gio said at the top, make it a live call-in show. I really don't want to. Because I know what you lot are like. If I make this a live call-in show, you're not going to let me go. But what I will do, I'm going to take the first 2 callers. Link is in the chat. We'll have 2 calls to end the show. First 2 people who come in, you can get on. And that's how we'll end the show, people. Yeah, for real, Fireball. Let me sleep, man. You can hear it in my voice. My voice is tired out here. 107 of you in the live. If anybody does want to come in and quickly air their points, I'm giving you 15 more seconds to come in and say your piece. Let me answer this question. Are we finished with Sunil Narayan? No, we shouldn't be. Remember, Ramas, that the independent report that was commissioned after the disaster at the 2022 World Cup, the recommendation from Justice Thompson and Lara and Mickey Arthur was that Cricket West Indies post haste sit with the 30 best white ball players in the region and just kind of chart the path forward and basically say to those players who, for whatever reason, seem to feel like they're not wanted by West Indies cricket, that they're welcome. Far as I know, that still ain't happened. So in the same way how I would always argue we shouldn't be finished with Sunil, we shouldn't be finished with Sunil, we shouldn't be finished with Hetmeyer, we shouldn't be finished with Evan Lewis, and we shouldn't be finished with Andre Russell. There is nobody in this chat right now who can tell me that those 4 players are significantly worse than the players who are currently playing for the West Indies. Sunil Narayan walks into this team. He just walks into it. It's not even up for debate. Andre Russell is better than Romario Shepherd and Odean Smith. So therefore, he must walk into this team. He certainly bowls better than both of them, right? So, you know. Anyways, yes, point from Crick Lover, which I just want to put up, and I want to get my stats to read out. So, Hayley Matthews the women's Premier League finished today, and the Mumbai Indians team won. And Hayley Matthews, of course, was on the Mumbai Indians team. Sorry, she was the only West Indian in the tournament. Obviously, Deandra Dottin had originally been selected. Go check out the video that I did on Deandra Dottin. It's the most recent video on our YouTube channel. Deandra Dottin was selected as well for the Gujarat Giants, but they dissed her, and then Deandra dropped her diss track back. But didn't feature her in this year's WPL. But just some stats for you lot if you don't know. So Hayley Matthews in this tournament took the most wickets in the WPL. She had the 4th best economy in the tournament, the 5th most runs, won the trophy for the most valuable player in the whole tournament. She scored 271 runs in the tournament, an average of 30, with a strike rate of 126. She took 16 wickets at an average of 13, with an economy of 5.94. Listen, we got to salute Hayley Matthews each and every time. She's a world-class player. And you see this inaugural WPL, which is obviously going to be the #1 competition for women in the world, just like the IPL is for the men. Hayley's gone there and just dominated it in the first ever WPL. We all got to respect, or everybody give Hayley Matthews her flowers. Go at her and go give her flowers, because this Hayley Matthews, she's the only world-class player we've got in the women's team. And she always puts her hand up for the women's team. She's been shorn of Deandra Dottin's services. She's been shorn of Stefani Taylor's services. And she continues to show up game after game after game for the West Indies women's side, putting in big performance after big performance. So I'm not a franchise guy. Listen, I don't really care about franchise cricket, but I will salute Hayley Matthews each and every time for the job that she does. And listen, she's an ambassador of the region. This is a type of thing where it's not about what country she's from. She's an ambassador of the region when she's the only West Indian in the tournament doing what she's doing. So respect Hayley each and every time. So we got one caller. We're going to end the show with this caller. It's going to be Gio. I'm going to get Gio on, see what Gio's got to say, and then we'll end tonight's live, people. Just a reminder, though, people, that the third T20 is a day-nighter. So I think it starts at 5 o'clock UK time. So that'll be like 12 o'clock in the afternoon for those of you in the Caribbean, or 11 a.m. or whatever it might be. It's a day-night match, and that'll be Tuesday, and then that will be the end of the South Africa series. And then on Wednesday, we have the final round of the West Indies Championship, Trinidad versus Jamaica, Harpy Eagles, Guyana Harpy Eagles versus Leeward Islands Hurricanes, and Barbados Pride versus the Windward Island Volcanoes. And that will be the final round of the West Indies Domestic Championship before we head into the Headley versus Weeks best versus best series. We've got plenty of videos coming up on all of that, because I'll be very, very intrigued to see how they go about picking that Headley versus Weeks series, particularly as all of the players who are currently in this T20 series who aren't going to the IPL. Do you put a spot aside for Brandon King, for example? But I've got some videos coming and all that. I won't get into that right now. I've got some videos coming and all that. Listen, Gio, you're coming on, man. Last thing on the show for tonight. Yes. Oh, by the way, people, I've never mentioned it at once. No point in the video did I mention it. Like, share, and subscribe. Didn't even mention it once, you know. If you've been watching this live, to help the algorithms, press like before you go. Share this to anybody if you think they'd enjoy the content, and subscribe to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I forgot to even say that. First time in the show I've said that. Gio, come on. Yes, Gio, what are you saying?
Hello, good afternoon, Machel. Are you hearing me properly?
All good, man. All good.
Yes. Thanks for having me. The only thing I would say is that the problem is, I was kind of alluding it earlier, and I've been alluding it from a couple of years ago, is because, like, say, for example, right, we know that the West Indies Regional Championship is kind of a little bit small, right? And the commentators, they kind of allude to it during the comments. Like, a lot of times, like, you can see a lot of our players, because they don't really play that red ball cricket to get grounded properly, a lot of them don't really know the bowl in different situations. So say, for example, right? If Odin Smith or Romario Shepherd, you know that they were having problem bowling, right? They would actually play the domestic game, or domestic T20, domestic 4-day cricket, or domestic list A cricket, and they would develop their game, and they would try to bowl different type of overs and different type of balls, right? Like, I know in India, I know with Arshdeep Sim, the reason why he developed his Yorkers is because doing their domestic T20 and doing their domestic list A, they try these things, right? Because sometimes the franchise get too caught up, talking the regional franchise, they get caught up too much in trying to win instead of trying to develop youngsters. Like, say, for example, right, it's just a trophy. Like, the purpose of the 4-day championship is not for the countries, it's for West Indies. So You should not be trying to risk winning and not playing youngsters instead of and just playing older players. Like same thing with Jamaica. I see with Jamaica, I see with Barbados, I see whatever, right? I know Trinidad to some extent, right? Why are you playing to somebody who's 33, 34 years old instead of somebody that's like 21, 22, 23? Like I know that players gotta make money, but at the same time, the competition is not for the countries, it's for West Indies.
I mean, Gio, you're talking to the converted here, and I completely agree. I think before the West Indies Championship started, I did a few videos, particularly if I look at TNT, where we said surely Imran Khan, and this is every time I say these points, people, I say this with respect. Imran Khan is 38 years old. He might even be 39 now. At what point do Trinidad and Tobago say, you know what, we can't be playing 38, 39-year-old Imran Khan every single game of our domestic championship because it's not actually benefited. It might help TNT win some games, but what's it doing for the wider good of West Indies cricket? Now, the answer to the question, Gio, is no one cares about the wider good of West Indies cricket. That's the actual problem. I think they would all lie and claim they do, but you only have to look at selections across the region to understand that I don't think West Indies is the priority for any of these regional sides, really and truly, right? But also touching on your other point about players working on their skills, I agree with you, right? And this is why I'm a bit disappointed with Oldeen, because you have to remember that Oldeen played the majority of Super 50 for the Scorpions. And in fairness, remember, Oldeen finished as top wicket taker in the tournament alongside, I think it was Shannon Gabriel and maybe, was it Nicholson Gordon? I can't remember, right?
Yes, Nicholson Gordon, I think.
Right. So Oldeen Smith took 15 wickets in that tournament. And to be fair to him, Gio, I actually thought that Oldeen bowled well in that Super 50 tournament. And for the first time in a long while, I thought that Oldeen was putting together over after over that showed he was thinking about his bowling. But I put this back to you, Gio. Is the problem possibly that the batting's so poor that that Oldeen taking 15 wickets in Super 50, does that say more about regional batting than it says about Oldeen Smith? What do you think?
I think it's because the batting is so poor. Because, say, for example, right, I understand the West Indies Championship. We only played, 4 games so far? Is it 4 or 3 games?
Yeah, 4.
I think it's like four games so far, right? Ain't no way you should have like 6, 7 bowlers taking wickets with at an average of less than 20. I could understand one or two bowlers, but come on, you got Nicholson Gordon, you got Raheem Cornwall, you got Pramal, and you got like 2, 3 more players taking wickets like at 15, 16, 17. Oh my Lord, come on. I could understand like 1 or 2 players, but come on, like really, regular. And this is not anything like other than norm. It's regular basis. You see like 5, 6 players taking wickets under 20. I can understand 1 or 2 players, but 5, 6 players.
And then what that then means, Joe, is where we have to admit then that, well, I mean, it's something we should already know, but we have to admit then that domestic cricket isn't necessarily going to, it's not the training ground that it needs to be, i.e. the gap between domestic cricket and international cricket is too huge, right? But then check this. As you were talking, I said to myself, I went and looked and I was like, and we're using Oldeen Smith as an example. I went and looked and I said, what was Oldeen Smith's last commitment outside of West Indies cricket, right? And the last set of games that Oldeen Smith played before he came to this T20 series, he played in the PSL, right? So I'm just going to read you the last 6 games he played in the PSL in terms of his bowling. None for 40, and that was obviously bowling his allocation. 1 for 27, 2 for 41, 2 for 41, none for 27, none for 36. Now, not all of those games, admittedly, was Oldeen bowling all of his full allocation, but most of them was him bowling his full allocation. And I guess I put this to you, but I also put this to people in the chat. Those stats I've just read, so 2 for 40, none for 36, etc. they're not bad. They're not bad stats. And that's the PSL, right? I would put the PSL as probably it's either the number 2 or the number 3 T20 league in the world, right? Is it that then that we say that Odin can bowl, but he can only bowl in certain conditions? Or why is it? Why do you think he's not able to show any level of consistency with the ball for West Indies?
I would say the one thing about a PSL, those figures can be skewed a little bit because like PSL is generally like a run fest. Like it's on a regular basis. You see teams score like 220, 230, 240. But for MI Cape Town in the SA T20, he played actually pretty well. And I think part of it is because those pitch conditions are similar to the ones that we got in the Caribbean. And then back to my original reasoning, I would say that, like, for example, I feel like if West Indies say during right now, right? I understand what West Indies is doing right now, right? But my thing was always to be, say, for example, IPL is like 2.5 months long, right? Like, why don't we have like a domestic T20 right there, or have like 4 straight rounds of red ball game? Say, for example, like if a lot of players that didn't get picked for like IPL deal or county cricket deal, like make it mandatory for them to at least play them 4, 5, 6 set of games, either the T20 game or the part of a regional game. Like, you gotta do something extra. And for example, right, I was really kind of disappointed because I was hoping that even though the academy they're going to play in the Weeks and Headley, I was hoping that they actually would have played in the regional 4-day game and make more pitches like the ones that we got today, right? Because against South Africa, because say, for example, right, like you got to choose between, is either going to have really good bowlers and then are really good batters. And I think right now we don't really got no batters, right? So if you got pitches like are just a run fest, it will teach a bowler how to develop better and better. So if we ain't batting properly, we're going to be able to bowl our teams. And I think that's how Pakistan does their cricket, because if you've seen their PSL, it's like a run fest. But when their players go for T20 nationals, they're used to giving away a lot of runs and they know to control their rate. So I think we should either be doing the same, like train players how to bat properly and then train our bowlers. I rather the batters scoring like 400 runs on a constant basis in the region, and then bowlers developing how to bowl, instead of the bowlers just having too much of a paradise, so they're not develop their bowling. I think bowling is a little bit more easier to develop than batting. So you need to make it pancake pitches so you can bat better. And then bowlers, they can come along. That's just my thing.
I think certainly, speaking from the English perspective, if I remember rightly, when England became the all-conquering white ball side that they became and has now permeated into their kind of test cricket, one of the things I read about how England became that side was they actually did what you said, Gio. They focused on creating flat decks. Flat decks encourage quick run scoring and high run scoring. And then it just meant that when England, it meant that English players, the England team were able to essentially create a kind of philosophy. The only thing I would say, though, and I think everyone in the chat needs to be mindful of this as well, is that everything that's happening right now, similar to the test series against South Africa, we have to take it all with a pinch of salt, because until we know who the head coach is going forward, it's kind like we could win the final T20 against South Africa. That doesn't suddenly mean that West Indies have become a good T20 side, because actually, say Andre Coley doesn't get the white ball job, right? We're effectively starting all over again as soon as the new coach comes in. So as much as we can kind of get on and say, how did we not defend this? And we need to do this and we need to do that. All of that is relevant. But in the back of my head, I'm just mindful that as soon as a coach comes in, if it's not Coley, it's almost like we have to go back to the start again. which is no bad thing. But I just think everyone needs to be mindful that we shouldn't put too much weight by what we're seeing in these games, because technically it could be another reboot in a couple of months.
Yes, yes, yes. I understand that. And then the one thing I would say, I know it might be getting late, but this will be my last point. Or if you want me to make another point out of this, I will. But the one thing I would say is I could accept West Indies losing, but at least show me that you're trying. And then another thing is we already qualified for the T20 World Cup. So like you were saying for the 2020 for the 2022 World Cup, like we should be like, okay, all right, we got to identify these 15 to 18 to 20 players, right? And then all we're going to do from now till the World Cup, all we're going to do is prep for the World Cup and stick to a squad and just be picking those players and say, okay, all right, we already qualified, so that we don't got to worry about the qualifiers. We don't got to worry about nothing like that. Just play. Okay, and let the fans know and let people got to understand. We're going to lose some of these series are because we've been losing anyway. So at least we're going to have these 15, 20 players that when we know that when World Cup comes, if somebody didn't have such a drastic either T20 league deal or drastic CPL deal, not really a lot of players could come. Like say, for example, like if we got a team right now, we could pick that team minus maybe Carrera, minus maybe a couple other players that are like bits and parts players, and be like, okay, pick those players from now till 2024. That's the group of 20 that we're gonna stick with and develop. Say, for example, like we could pick a Ramon Simmons, and then we could be like, okay, all right, guess what? You're gonna be playing every series because we're gonna depend on you to move on and pick up a couple batters and say, hey, okay, y'all the next team going forward, and groom them going forward. That's what we should be doing for 2024. And forget about maybe the ODI World Cup because we might not even make that anyways. Because the one thing I don't want to do is to be disgraced or embarrassed in the Caribbean. I could understand being embarrassed in Australia, India, England, whatever, right? But at least put a fight in, make it to at least get out the group stage in the Caribbean next year for the World Cup, because it's going to be in our backyard.
I mean, they better get out the group stage, because I can see them getting bottled off the pitch if they don't. But what I would say, I agree. Ultimately, we've got to have a core of players. The only thing I will say about the core of players, though, is the selectors have to be very, very careful that it's made clear that although this is the core of players, that anybody can still break into the core of players should they. Well, I don't know what they'd have to do to be able to do so, but it also can't be. It can't come across like it's a closed club and that these are the only players that are going to be part of the West Indies squad going forward. But in principle, it's the right thing to do. The World Cup is about a year and 3 months away in the Caribbean, or the United States and the Caribbean. So that's probably going to be something like, I don't know, 25 bilaterals, maybe 27. So they don't have that much time to play with. So in theory, it's the right thing to do. Listen, Gio, I'm going to end it there. Thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And last thing I would say, thank you so much. And other teams, they do this right now because pretty sure India, England, whatever, Australia, they already identified those players and they're going to constantly pick them for various series. And West Indies, we're going to play 5 T20s against India coming up instead of 3.
Yes, that's I'm waiting for the official confirmation. But yes, that's what I've been led to believe, that they're going to extend. Makes sense. And I'd imagine that what they'll do is those extra 2 T20s, I wouldn't be surprised if they're in Florida or something like that. I'd assume they're going to be in the States. And they'll both India and the West Indies will want to hit the American market. But we'll wait for the official confirmation on that. But like I say, thanks for coming through, Gio.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Just final point, people, before I close the show off. So Brian says United States has been dropped as a host. So Brian, what I've heard is that it's a bit more technical. So they're still getting the host fee, but there's something that they've now lost. I can't remember So the ICC are still going to pay them the host fee, but I think they've lost like the money they were supposed to get for organization. I could be wrong. I'll try and find out some more details. But as I was led to believe, the United States and the West Indies, Cricket West Indies, were supposed to organize the tournament together. But something has happened where, in a nutshell, it sounds like ICC don't trust the Cricket USA to be able to actually organize anything. Cricket USA always seem to be lurching from one scandal and one crisis to another. So ICC don't trust them to actually run the competition alongside Cricket West Indies. So they're still a host, but they're just not organizing anything anymore. That's what I've been led to believe anyways. Listen, people, thank you so much for coming through. We've gone just over an hour. We covered more than I wanted to. Covered the two T20s, spoken about Hayley Matthews, spoken about regional cricket. Got lots more content coming up over the rest of this week or the start of the following week. I'm going to do a video reflecting on round 4 of the West Indies Championship. What else have we got coming up? Probably do an end of series video on the T20 series once it's done on Tuesday, and then once round 4 is done, round 5 is done, I should say, I'll definitely have a look at who would be in my week's Headley squad as well. And finally, big up Kishore Shallow, Dr. Kishore Shallow, and Azim Basarath. They are the new president and vice president of Cricket West Indies, respectively. So good luck to them. They have a 2-year tenure from 2023 to 2025. And we see how Cricket West Indies will change as time goes on now over the next 2 years. But thank you so much, everyone, for coming through to Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Before you leave, like the video, share the video, subscribe to Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You can find all you need to find out about the Caribbean Cricket Podcast at www.caribbeancricketpodcast.com, and you'll find all our different links there. And get involved, people. But thank you so much for coming through. Much appreciated. Stay locked in for more content over the next few days. Peace.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.